No changes.
No, just the
We'll call this meeting of the Common Council to order. Roll call, please.
Kraus?
Here.
Ruth?
Here.
Fire? Here. Peachy?
Here.
Miller?
Here.
Brandel?
Here.
Lars?
Here.
Horn?
Here.
Thank you. At this time, we'll entertain public participation. Anyone wishing to address the council may do so. We ask that you do so from the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Mike Zaleska, 140 South Dewey Avenue, Jefferson.
Oatmeal. I like oatmeal. I eat it a lot in the winter. I can get a big thing of oatmeal for $1.99. I've been able to get that same thing of oatmeal for $1.99 for as long as I can remember. I'm wondering if we could make our property taxes more like oatmeal. You know, if they can figure out in the oatmeal industry how to keep something at that price range for that amount of time, could we maybe do that with our property taxes? Would that be something feasible? We could lower them a little bit even. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Anyone else? Move on to point number 3, discussion on the recent news of the Tyson plant closing. City Administrator Freitag.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to make a few comments, and I'd like to first of all say that as assurance, I can tell you there's another meeting today that Bill and I and Dale attended, and you know, there's a real concerted effort, I think, to help the workers that ultimately will be displaced by the Tyson plant announcement. And Workforce Development has their rapid response team and resources in place. They've connected up with the union, also Tyson Human Resources, and the Workforce Development Plan is pretty sophisticated. And I guess I feel very comfortable, and I don't know how you feel, Bill or Dale, but I think they have a pretty aggressive plan. I think it's also fair to say they've had a fair amount of practice because there's been a lot of plant closings in this part of Wisconsin that they've had to deal with. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that I suspect, I don't necessarily know, but I suspect that shortly after the first of the year, Tyson will engage a national commercial properties broker to try to market that facility. I have talked to those people. They're not engaged yet, but they expect to be. And they think that happens shortly into 2016. And I suspect that Tyson's first endeavor would certainly be to try to sell the facility, probably to another food service group. If that fails, I suppose they will look to sell to perhaps another manufacturer that would repurpose the facility for some other manufacturing or industrial use. And if that fails, I suspect there'll be some consideration of the redevelopment option. Generally, I would say that one's not an easy one. You know, the core of the building's 100 years old. It's on multiple stories, makes for somewhat inefficient manufacturing. A good part of the property's in the floodplain, and it's got a downtown location, so it's not easy to move things in and out of that facility, and those things aren't going to change. Generally, I always look at these, and during my time in local government, I've certainly dealt with enough of them, that you always want to look at the opportunity. And this probably is going to turn out to be a pretty good opportunity for the city with a fair amount of hard work. Generally, for my own self, I favor the redevelopment option, and I feel that I'll be talking with you all shortly about this, so we can have discussions with Tyson. And, you know, you ask yourself, if we were to do this all over again today, would we allow that use at that location? You know, probably not, if we are making the decision today. But it's a wonderful opportunity potentially to redevelop what really is one of the nicest sites overlooking where two rivers come together into the community for mixed use and green space. Complicated, I would assure you, to deconstruct that facility, that's a fair amount of investment, but it's a really good opportunity, and I would only say that opportunities always exist to come back stronger when you're faced with this. And the most recent is when Briggs closed the facility. I think that was in 2010. I think we generally have to say that worked out pretty well for the community. The plant reopened by Generac, and they also reopened the plant on the south side, the old Schweiger facility. And, with a lot of hard work, I think the opportunity exists to do something similar with this property. So,
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions of Tim? One of the topics of discussion at the meeting today with Department of Workforce Development.
Yep.
It was coordinated by Genevieve Cody, our County Economic Development Consortium Director. Jefferson County was in attendance, as well as representatives of Senator Fitzgerald's office and MATC. And I'm missing somebody, Andy. But suffice to say, we had a number of entities there, and I agree with Tim. I think we came away with a very positive feeling about our first priority is the workers and their opportunities going forward. And I think there's going to be ample opportunities for either replacement. Some of them may actually find work in better paying jobs than where they're at right now. Retraining for others, and certainly advanced retraining for those that wish to go on through the technical college. So there's a number of things there. One of the things that Paul Jaden is from Mad Rep. Okay, that's our kind of a district economic development, multi-county economic development consortium. And one of the things that they said will help is if the council can come to some sort of a consensus on what our preference would be, whether it's, do we want to try to find somebody to come in and, as Tim said, repurpose the plant, either for what it was or some other purpose, food service purpose, or for preparation purpose, or if the council and the city wishes to pursue the redevelopment option, it would be best to know that going forward kind of on the front end. So it's something to think about, and we'll bring that back for a discussion probably at our next meeting. So we'll provide a little bit more information on that, but I agree with Tim, and I know Bill expressed this today too, that this could be a tremendous opportunity for the city of Jefferson and the greater Jefferson community here. So unless anyone has any other questions.
I think it's really an opportunity to remake parts of the downtown and our waterfront that probably we haven't had that opportunity for a long, long time.
Okay. Move on to resolution number 72, the consent agenda. Alderwoman Byer, please.
Honorable Mayor, council members, and citizens, City of Jefferson Resolution Number 72. Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Jefferson, Wisconsin, that the consent agenda for December 1st, 2015 is hereby adopted. The consent agenda for tonight includes vouchers payable for December 2015 in the amount of $78,808 and payroll summary for November 13th, 2015 in the amounts of $138,211. Council minutes from November 17th, 2015 meetings of the Common Council. Licenses as approved by the Regulatory Committee. We had 3 operators licensed, one for Kevin Conley for Speedway, one for Elizabeth Coots for Heron's Landing, and one for Janelle Latch for Fairview. I would so move.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Roth. Any discussions, additions, or corrections? Being none, all in favor of approval, please signify by saying aye as Rita calls your name. No if you're opposed.
Roth.
Aye.
Beyer.
Aye.
Peachy.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Brandel.
Aye.
Lars.
Aye.
Horn.
Aye.
Kraus.
I abstaining from the minutes of November 17th.
Unanimous, duly noted. This time we'll adjourn to a public hearing to discuss the 2016 General Special Funds, Public Library, Refuse Recycling, Capital Project and Equipment, Storm Sewer Utility, Wastewater Utility budgets, and adoption of the 2016 General Special Funds, Public Library, Refuse Recycling, Capital Project and Equipment, Stormwater and Wastewater Utility budgets. City Administrator Freitag.
They should raise the price. He's getting stranger.
Tim, just
He is.
Yeah, I know.
making it easier for you.
Yeah, why don't you just take that over and make it, put it down wherever you're comfortable.
I think, Mayor and council members, I'll just work from this handout. A lot of this is information we talked about, I think it was 2 meetings ago when I provided just an overview of the budget. So some of it I'll work through really quite quickly. On the first slide inside the cover page, we're really at the last step in the adoption of our budget and setting the 2015 tax levy and tax rate, which you'll be asked to vote on tonight following the public hearing. I would say that our process started back in about the middle of summer, proceeding through myself completing a preliminary draft of the proposed budget. The Finance Committee then met about the first part of September, reviewed the draft, met with department heads, and really the document that you have in front of you tonight is the culmination of the Finance Committee's work and their recommendation on a 2016 operating budget. On the next slide, I always like to start the new budget season with a review of how the current, in this case, 2015 budget is performing. And generally, our revenues are outpacing expenditures by about 2%, and I suspect in the main city general operating fund, which is our general fund, there'll be about $150,000 operating surplus at the end of the year. I think it's fair to say, unless something very strange happens in December, you know, the year kind of unfolded as we thought it would this time last year when we adopted the 2015 budget. On the next slide is the breakdown of the proposed 2015 tax levy. Remember, we levy taxes 1 year in arrears. I actually have it listed so you wouldn't be confused as the 2016 proposed tax levy. This really is unchanged from our last discussion. We levy taxes to support 4 funds. The big one, of course, is the general operating fund. That levy is proposed at just over $3 million. It's about a 3% increase from the current year. And a large part of that increase is really due to new debt that we need to service we incurred when we borrowed to finance construction of the EMS facility. About $40,000 or half of that total $89,100 tax levy for the general fund is due to an increasing debt service. The library fund is proposed to increase by about 2.3%. We also levy taxes for a portion of our refuse and recycling fund program, and that's primarily to fund the compost facility, which we hire someone to attend to, and also funds the curbside collection and chipping of brush that are placed at the streets by our property owners. By far, in a way, the biggest increase in tax levy is due to capital purposes. That's about a 15% adjustment in the levy for capital purposes. It provides not quite 100,000 new dollars. And the reason for that is the Finance Committee decided that they wanted to accelerate the city's capital improvement project program, and in particular facilitate the reconstruction of 3 segments of city streets in 2016 that we can talk a little bit about in a few minutes. Overall, the proposed tax levy for all purposes or all funds is proposed to increase by $201,975 or about 5%. That number represents the legally permissive amount that the city can adjust its tax levy for the 2016 operating year.
Mr. Freitag, on the refuge and recycling fund, if we can continue to make oatmeal at the same rate, can't we dispose of the oatmeal at the same rate, or is there something that's not?
Well, I would say this, Jim, I'm not sure about the oatmeal analogy. That probably doesn't work well for most governmental services, but really the reason for the levy adjustment in that particular, the state legislature, when they adopted the biennium budget, the 2-year budget for the state, they reduced the recycling aid payment that are made to Wisconsin communities to help offset, that mandated cost of operating a recycling program. Our payment decreased by about $5,000, so this is the makeup for that levy to keep our recycling program funded due to the loss of that aid. Pure and simple, I think. That's the reason. Normally, we wouldn't increase the levy in that fund, but we had to because we lost state aids.
Thank you.
And oddly enough, it was cut back more in the first year of the biennium. It's restored in the second year.
Yep, our 2017.
In our 2017.
It's supposed to be restored.
So we should see a decrease in that in next year's budget.
Thank you.
So on the next page is our property tax levy and rate calculation. That's a historical perspective. The data typically goes back to 2005, and these are the parts that really go into determining what a tax bill looks like. So the first line, our equalized value trend, you can see that the city added pretty significant tax base growth from 2014 to 2015. These numbers are always as of January 1st of that year, because that's when property is valued in Wisconsin. And the reason for that $20 million growth is, one, the real estate market is recovering, no doubt, in our area of the county. But also, we had fairly significant new tax base construction from development. Those two things primarily account for the rather large increase in our equalized value. And the trend now is coming back. When we had the economic downturn, we lost a lot of tax base because property was valued differently due to the economic recession of 2009, 10, and 11. But now it is coming back, and I would say it's coming back, quite nicely. The next line is the amount of our tax base in a tax increment district. We have several. If you compare year to year, it actually looks like something happened and we have less value in our tax increment districts from the previous year. That's really not quite true. Remember, we abolished tax increment district 2, and that brought not quite $11 million back on the tax roll. So if you added that back in, our tax increment districts had a pretty nice increase in tax base. The next line is simply our equalized value less the value of property in a tax increment district. And then the next line down is our assessment ratio, or the ratio of our assessed value, which is determined locally by our assessor, to our equalized value, which is determined by the Department of Revenue. So we always try to be a full market value community, so we always like that ratio to be as close to 100% as we can. And, you know, this year, the assessment work came pretty close. The last time we met, we didn't have that number yet. We actually just got that ratio. The Department of Revenue provides that last week. So the number that I had talked to you about when we did the last overview was about 0.2% less than that, so pretty close. And it really has a negligible impact on what our tax rate will be. The next line down is applying that ratio to our equalized value. That gives us our total assessed value. That's the number that we spread our tax levy over, and ultimately that determines what the city's tax rate for next year is going to be. So applying that, our levy spread out over our assessed value, it results in a proposed tax rate of about $9.07 per 1,000 of property valuation. That's about a little less than a 24-cent increase over the current year tax rate. The sheet that you're most interested in, no doubt, is on the next one. This is that running historical comparison of the same parcels of property selected randomly going back quite a few number of years, goes back to about 2009. So that is the first column at the top where it says net tax rate effect on random property owners. If you go over to the far right-hand column, when you add up the total tax bill, including the other taxing jurisdictions, and you apply aids and credits that come from various sources, that is the overall tax dollar impact on the 5 pieces of property that we looked at. So just looking at the first one, identified by the parcel number 6, starting with 614-1512-007. It had a valuation of, in 2015, of roughly 90, not quite $95,000. The total impact of our tax levy and the levies of the other government jurisdictions, once you applied aids, is about $2.59. If you look at the next property, which is valued at a little over $96,000, the impact is about $2.69. The next property is probably a vacant property. It has a valuation of not quite $15,000. That has a 41-cent impact. And then the last two are higher valued property. The first is about $173,000, and the second is about a $215,000 property. Actually, you know, their tax bill is going to go down. So, you know, overall, you know, probably it's a pretty negligible tax levy impact year. But if you wanted to break down the gross tax rates of the various governmental districts, that certainly is possible. The next column where it says gross tax rate, that adds up all the tax levies and rates of all of the government entities, but it doesn't apply any of the state aids that come from various sources that reduce the overall impact. And then going down, you can look at the impact of just the city of Jefferson tax rate. The next one is Jefferson County. The next one is the school district, and the last one is the vocational district, and it all takes a look at those same pieces of property. Next page has just a line graph of historical look at what's happened to the city's property tax rate going back to 2007. And it kind of is trending upwards, as you generally would expect tax rates to do, but for a large property reevaluation year. The next page, we're a fund accounting community. We use about a dozen different funds to account for our different operations and programs. Of course, the big one is the general fund, but we have many other funds. If you added up all those funds, the total level of spending in 2016 is $12,572,785. That's an increase of the current year of about 3.4%, or not quite $418,000. And when you have swings from year to year in spending, almost always they're related to the amount of money that you're spending for capital purposes, an expensive road project, or you're buying an expensive piece of equipment. In 2016, we have a pretty expensive road project. That's phase 2 of the Center Avenue project, or as we refer to it as the Sanborn Avenue project. The next page is a summary of all the different funds that I just mentioned that we use to finance our programs. On the next page, these are the assumptions and some of the highlights that are reflected in the budget. We talked about these a couple of weeks ago, so I'll go through them very, very quickly. Generally speaking, our budget is a constant service budget. It's really designed to keep, in 2016, our levels of programs and services funded at the current 2015 rate. We had no new personnel. I guess probably with one exception, there aren't any new or significant changes to existing programs or services. The one exception is we added about $13,000 in new expenses to get the VFW Recreation Center open, and additional money to fund utility costs and other operating and maintenance costs in 2016. We do have 2 positions created in the budget. One is to appoint an additional police lieutenant position to the 3rd shift. We're not hiring a new personnel. We're doing that through promotion of existing personnel. In addition, we will be appointing 1 new senior dispatcher. Currently, there's several different dispatchers. One will be appointed to the senior dispatch position, and again, that is filled through promotion, and we're not hiring a new set of units. One of the largest increases in the budget relates back to the transition of our EMS personnel from paid on-call status to paid in-station status. As you know, we're starting to struggle staffing our EMS service on a paid on-call basis. This year, we would propose to start the transition to pay in station, where we're actually paying personnel to be in the station to respond when needed. And what's funded this year are just the major holiday weekends where it's hardest to get staffing to fill those shifts. And remember, this is a 24/7, 365 operation. We don't stop because there's a holidays. And, we're just really not able to find personnel that will fill some shifts on a paid on-call basis. That's about $3.50 an hour. And then if you go on a run, you get additional run time. But this transitions to a number of hours in the budget for those major holiday weeks where we'll just be paying $12 an hour, and those personnel have to be in station. They can be assigned other duties, but that's how we would fill that. And generally speaking, I would think as we go forward, and Ron had pointed out to the Finance Committee tonight that We may very well eclipse 1,300 runs. They're averaging about 5 runs a day now. That's pretty significant from a historical perspective. But I would think that as financially the service can, we will look to expand from the major holiday weekend hours, and maybe we try to add paid in-station time to weekends. My guess would be the next jump, because that's the second part of the critical portion of trying to find personnel. We can't always find personnel to work weekends, so that probably is the next logical transition. But doing that adds about $33,000 to the budget. A lot of those new dollars are made up by EMS revenues. Obviously, the EMS service is providing more runs. Obviously, we bill back that run time, so they have more revenue to offset a lot of that cost. We're adding a health insurance deductible of $500 and $1,000 to our health insurance program that's used to cover city employees. And we're also providing a $200 and $400 employee contribution to each employee's flexible spending account to assist with that deductible cost. The overall savings to doing that is about $35,000. In terms of employee compensation, the budget does include a 1% structural adjustment to the city's current compensation plan to try to keep it current with the labor market. We will be asking the council to approve that 1% adjustment by separate resolution, probably at the December 15th council meeting, if approved tonight. The budget funds the compensation plan step increases. It funds a base wage adjustment of about 1.75% for employees that are out of steps. It funds the negotiated collective bargaining agreements, and it does fund a merit pool, much like we did in 2015. It does include the budget includes a miscellaneous contingency of approximately $25,000 to fund unanticipated expenses in the new year. There is limited new borrowing proposed in the budget in the amount of $165,000. That would be for the proposed and planned purchase of a new fire engine, and that's the city portion. The other 4 townships, which we provide fire suppression service to, they have the rest of that cost. The equipment is about $550,000 total dollars. The one thing I do want to point out, I do know this number now, is we had a real low expenditure restraint ceiling in 2016. The base number was about 0.3%. That's because inflation is trending very, very low this last year in Wisconsin. We get an additional credit because we had pretty significant tax base growth, but our expenditure restraint was only 1.4%. Usually it's between 2 and 3%. So that means if we want to keep eligible for that additional shared revenue payment called the expenditure restraint program, and for us it's over $100,000 each year, we have to keep our expenditures below 1.4%. Ours are about 1.8%, but we've been pretty wise. Most years we're under. We've been banking that underage in the budget, and so we've built up a cushion of about $240,000, and the way we keep eligible for expenditure restraint. And I always figured there'd come a year when this would happen. It's the first time. We simply just reduce that number in our contingency appropriation by about $40,000, and that keeps us current without little impact.
Friday, before you go on, you had mentioned the EMS transition to paid in status,
Yes.
in-station status.
Yes.
And you mentioned that the increase in the number of responses are up to 31, I forget what number you said. But are we working on past data? I mean, once we convert to this new township reduction with Ashland moving out and things of that nature, are we gonna see the reduction in need for response? But we seem to be building up
Yeah.
on past data.
Yeah, I would note it, the data that Ron Wagner shared with the Finance Committee tonight is through the end of November, and that's tracking to be, he said potentially, certainly approaching 1,200, but he said he expects it to approach 1,300 runs this year. I think he said it's averaging 5 runs a day is what I think he had suggested to the Finance Committee. So, you know, the
1,500
loss
calls a
of,
day would be 3.5 calls a day.
yeah, well, I think he said for the month of November, they were, maybe he said they were averaging 5 runs a day, but I think 5 runs is what he said, right?
5 right now, yeah.
But, you know, he said he expects it to approach 1,300. That would be the historical new record, and every year we tend to set a record. It seems like the loss of Ashland, you know, was maybe the equivalent of 20 runs a year, as I recall. It wasn't very much, so I would expect the need impact on that service to continue to increase at a rate much faster than I had hoped for, quite honestly. On the next page, that's just a classification of our proposed authorized city positions in 2016. It should look a lot like the classification for 2015, only you would see one more additional lieutenant and one new senior dispatch position, but otherwise it should essentially read the same. In terms of impacts on public charges for services or user fee impacts, there's no proposed increase in our storm water utility rate. The sanitary sewer rate study is done. The Finance Committee talked about that tonight at their meeting. I would anticipate that they will introduce a first reading of an ordinance that would adjust rates by about 5%, pretty much across the board for residential and commercial and industrial users. There is no increase for 2016 refuse and recycling collection service. That fee will remain at the 2015 rates of $13.45 for residential collection service each month, or $15.30 for commercial collection service. And I can't recall that there are any new increases in fees or public charges for services that are proposed in the budget. The next page is our spending for capital improvement projects and equipment replacement. Total spending for 2016 is proposed at $1,850,300. And that funds equipment replacement, public facility maintenance, and funding for street reconstruction. We use a number of funds. Those are listed next for our total capital purposes spending. The budget, as I previously said, with the additional levy dollars, is proposed to fund 3 additional street programs that previously weren't on our 2016 capital improvement plan. That would be resurfacing on South Taft Street, resurfacing on East Linden Street, and resurfacing on East Dane Street. And I think, Paul, I don't know if you want to mention anything, but I think the rationale was if those streets can be resurfaced now, it's likely to extend their life and prevent a much more costly reconstruction of those road bases in the future. Again, there's new capital debt of $165,000 proposed to fund the city's portion of a replacement fire engine. The complete city capital outlay detail is on the next page. You've seen a lot of that before. but the numbers I just mentioned all should track back to the capital improvement projects or equipment replacement that are on this plan. On the next slide is a line graph again of historical property tax levy for capital projects and equipment replacement. And you can see the Finance Committee really at their urging has really increased spending for capital purposes to try to catch up and also accelerate our equipment replacement schedule. But you can see what the levy was in 2009 and what it's proposed at next year. You know, it's pretty significant. And where the city really gains, it tries to fund the vast majority of its capital projects and its equipment replacement, but for really expensive equipment like a fire truck or a really expensive street reconstruction project, we try to fund on a pay-as-you-go or cash basis and not borrow for those things. And so the city's paying down its debt at a pretty good clip. Doing it on a pay-as-you-go basis, you know, probably will result in some pretty nice financial benefits within a couple of years as the city pays down its current debt service. I think I told you a few weeks ago, if you didn't know anything about municipal or government finance and you wanted to gain some insight, the best factors to really look at are the equalized valuation trend of the community, its statutory debt limit, and its general fund balance. And you know, if you look at those three things, you'll get a pretty good snapshot at the financial health of the community. And I won't go through these again, but as I mentioned, the city's equalized value growth took a significant step forward this year, increased by over $20 million. A lot of that was new construction. That is 2 slides in. You can see the new net new construction figures for all of Jefferson County communities, and of course the city, you know, well, just one of those years where a lot of tax base hit the tax rolls for the first time. And then the next page is the historical bar graph information of the equalized value trend for the community. And you can see what happened during the years of the downturn, bottoming out, and now it's starting to come back. Similarly, the city has well-reserved debt capacity. Our general obligation debt at the conclusion of this year is about $7.6 million. Statutorily, the city could borrow over $24 million if it wanted to. So it's carved out or reserved a pretty significant part of debt capacity. And then lastly is the city's general fund balance reserves, representing about 33% of our total annual spending. That's pretty good. The goal adopted a few years ago was 25%, so we've been able to exceed that and maintain that. And the city has, I think, a pretty attractive fund balance position. The next graph is historically what's happened with that fund balance, and you can see it's trending in the direction you'd like it to trend, and that is just incremental increases from year to year. And I think my concluding comments are, again, the budget, I think, proposed for 2016 continues programs and services at the current 2015 level. It certainly accelerates implementation of the city's capital improvement plan, primarily adding 3 additional street reconstruction projects. My own opinion is, I think if this budget is put in place, I think it maintains the city's positive financial trend, certainly preserves a pretty excellent bond rating, and I don't think this budget walks back the city's financial position if you choose to put it in place.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions of Tim?
I guess, ma'am, the fire truck, what, is it a ladder truck, is it? What?
Engine.
An engine truck? I guess, when was the last time we adjusted the sewer? How long ago was it that we made an last year? Okay, those are my two questions. All right,
The fire
that's-
truck is actually a hybrid truck that it's mostly a vehicle to serve the townships. The city's paying 30% of that truck.
I just wanted a little bit more explanation. Thank you.
Any other questions of Tim? If not, thank you, Tim. Great work once again. Appreciate your work and as well as all the staff. And certainly the Finance Committee for the time and hours that you put into this. Chairman Peachy and everyone on the Finance Committee, thank you. If there are no other questions, I'll move on to resolution number 73, a resolution to adopt the 2016 General Special Funds, Public Library, Refuse Recycling, Capital Project and Equipment, Storm Sewer Utility, and Wastewater Utility budgets. Finance Committee Chairman Peachy, please.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor Upperman, fellow council members, and citizens of Jefferson. City of Jefferson Resolution Number 73. Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Jefferson that the 2016 General Fund budget attached hereto and the 2016 budgets for special funds, public library, recycling refuse, capital project and equipment, storm sewer utility, and the wastewater treatment utility are hereby adopted. And be it further resolved that any budgetary figures stipulated in the municipal code shall be amended to reflect changes authorized in the municipal budget. I would so move.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Kraus. Any discussion?
I would just like to commend the senior center for decreasing their budget this year.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? There being none, all in favor of approval of the budget, please signify by saying aye as Rita calls your name. No if you're opposed.
Fire. Aye. Peachy.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
Lars.
Aye.
Horn.
Aye.
Kraus.
Aye.
Roth.
Aye.
Unanimous, thank you. Resolution number 74, a resolution authorizing 2015 tax rates and the 2016 tax levies. Alderman Brandel, please.
Honorable Mayor Opperman, fellow council members, and citizens of Jefferson. City of Jefferson Resolution Number 74. Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Jefferson that the 2015 General Fund Property Tax Levy for municipal services in 2016 in the amount of $3,013,500 and the 2015 Refuse Recycling Fund Levy for 2016 service in the amount of $34,725, the 2015 Public Library Fund Levy for 2016 service in the amount of $398,050, and the 2015 Capital Project and Equipment Fund Levy for 2016 in the amount of $767,800 is hereby approved. And be it further resolved that the following tax is hereby adopted. City of Jefferson, $9 and 6.5651591 I so move.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Miller. And in discussion? There being none, all in favor of approval of the 2015 tax rates and 2016 tax levies, please signify by saying aye as Rita calls your name. No if you're opposed.
Peachy.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
Lars.
Aye.
Horn.
Aye.
Kraus.
Aye.
Roth.
Aye.
Fire. Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you. At this time, we'll adjourn to closed session pursuant to section 19.85, parent 1C, considering employment, promotion, and compensation performance evaluation data of any public employee regarding anticipated vacancies in the city clerk and wastewater treatment plant positions. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
It's been moved.
Second.
Second by Alderman Lars. All in favor signify by saying aye as Rita calls your name. No if you're opposed.
Miller.
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
Lars.
Aye.
Horn.
Aye.
Kraus.
Aye.
Roth.
Aye.
Fire. Aye. Peachy.
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned to closed session. We will return to open session, but we will not do any more business this evening. Thank you for coming. Drive carefully.